Thank you for tuning in to the Shikama Live Show with your host, Shikama, produced by Boundless Enterprise LLC in association with www.lasvegasnevadadui.com. Today's topic of discussion, affirmative action. The reason that I'm bringing this to you today is because there is a Supreme Court case that just was just handed down concerning affirmative action. Before I start, 90% of the people that prosper from affirmative action are white women. 90%, an overwhelming percent. The recent Supreme Court case was brought by a white woman. What was her complaint? That black people took her spot in college. This is pure crap and racism at its heart. She had no leg to stand on anyway because a majority of college students' positions are given to women in general, mainly white women anyway. Had I been the judge, I would have thrown the court case out on its ear because she doesn't have a leg to stand on, meaning she had absolutely no cause to bring the case to begin with, because it's not black people that took her spot. So let me get into what affirmative action is. Affirmative action is not letting someone who is unqualified be in school or job get the position. Colleges in every case have demonstrated how they choose their students. Here's the list. The top 10% are chosen right off the top, regardless of race. This means black kids are in this set, the top 10%. The entire rest of the 90% are chosen for various reasons, including race. What people are complaining about doesn't take into account that this includes kids whose families have gone to the school legacies or are selected, or kids who will benefit from school in sports or some special activity. The people who bring these suits only concentrate on race. So the real discrimination is that the past few Supreme Court cases have been white people claiming that a black person got picked over them because of race. Well, what about the athletes, the geniuses, the legacy admissions, the famous people, the rich people, and some kid that did something special, a record holder, invented something, some kid that drew national attention. All of these people are picked not due to regular admissions as well, but somehow black people are singled out as taking a spot of a white person. This is the racist attitude of plaintiffs. Let's go over some of the educational statistics, if you will, for race and gender. In 2011, some 7% of 25 to 29-year-olds had completed at least a master's degree. You can write this down if you need to. From 1995 to 2011, the attainment rate of a master's degree or higher increased for whites from 5 to 8%, blacks from 2 to 4%, and Asian Pacific Islanders from 11 to 17%. In 2011, the percentage of Asian Pacific Islanders who had attained at least a master's degree in 2011, 17%, was higher than that of their peers of any other race, ethnicity. 8% of whites, 4% of blacks, and 3% of Hispanics. Between 1995 and 2011, the gap in the attainment of master's degree or higher between blacks and whites were not measurably different, while the gap between whites and Hispanics increased from 4 to 5%, meaning that the attainment level, educational attainment level gap between whites and Hispanic actually got worse for Hispanics. difference in educational attainment by gender have shifted over the past few decades, with female attainment now greater than male attainment at each educational level. This is from the actual census data. This is raw data. For example, in 1980, the percentage of males, 85%, and females, 86%, who had completed at least a high school or equivalency were not measurably different. But in 2011, the percentage of female, 91%, was higher than the percentage of males, 87%, by 3 percentage points. The percentage of females, 21%, who had attained at least a bachelor's degree was 3 points lower than the percentage of males, 24%, in 1980. But in 2011, the percentage of females, 36%, was 8 points higher than the percentage of males, 28%. Here are some black data. 82%. Among 25 and older, the percentage with a high school diploma or higher in 2010. 82%. So, this combats a lot of the information that you hear talking about black people being dropouts. When you look at the raw data and you control for an age past which a GED and everything else should be attained, 25 years old, you get an 82% high school graduation rate. Point blank. Raw data. Read them and weep. 18% of blacks 25 and older who had a bachelor's degree or higher in 2010. 18%. 1.5 million among blacks 25 and older, the number who had an advanced degree in 2010. That's masters and doctorates together, or professional. 2.9 million number of blacks enrolled in college in 2010, a 1.7 million increase since 1990, meaning the actual year that that they took the data, 1990, it was 1.7 million members lower, black people lower than it in 2010, which was 2.9 million. That means for all of those years, all of those millions of black people were getting degrees, of course, right? Okay, let me quote Luke Visconti, Chief Executive Officer of Diversity, Inc. If I asked you to vote for a civil rights initiative, would you vote for it? Yes. That was the title of the law that was passed in Michigan that was against affirmative action. I respect you for being here, and I respect the civil dialogue we've had here, but I disagree with you on that point. The language on all these bills is misleading. I would have said it's a lie. The ramp up was misleading. I would have said it's a lie. Black people were hired to hand out petitions for the Civil Rights Initiative in Michigan. How much big of a lie can you do than to hire black people to pass it out so everybody is caught completely off guard? This is what they do. It was disingenuous. I would have called it a lie. It was not the proper way of doing things. When Americans are confronted with the choice of being fair or unfair, they overwhelmingly want to be fair because we know we have a legacy in this country and we have to move forward from that legacy. That, of course, he's talking about racism in the past and presently. That is where we have to focus on the solution. And that solution is affirmative action. In utopia, we may not need it anymore, but none of us will live that long. None of us. So that was Luke Visconti, Chief Executive Officer of Diversity, Inc. Now, what is he really talking? The context in which he's see, I don't take things out of context. The context in which he's giving this speech is they are at a debate about affirmative action, and in particular, about the Supreme Court case and what they did in Michigan, which overwhelmingly passed an anti-affirmative action bill that they lied about and said it was a civil rights bill and and they hired black people to pass it out. I mean, they just pulled out all the stops to make sure that people thought that they were voting to help black people in a time when the economy is stomping on black people's necks. This is what they're doing. And they're not Republican. They weren't Republican. These were Democrats doing this. Just so you know what's going on. The real deal racist. Sure, they're not racist for hiring black people, but they hired black people for a racist agenda to throw people off guard and to make them think. Now, you're going to say, well, the people were stupid for voting it if that's not what they wanted to vote for. Stupid or not, these are tricks that they do. They did the same thing in California with having women pass out bills and to get people to sign. But overwhelmingly, the Asians didn't go for it. The Asians, not that the Asians read more than anybody else, but apparently in this case, I guess they did read. And it failed in California. Now, do we need affirmative action? I come from a rich family. I grew up well-to-do. I had maids, butlers, and chauffeurs and guards at my gate. I lived in mansions. I had, haute cuisine. I went to private schools. I went to boarding schools. I went to, prep schools. This is my life. Do I need affirmative action? No. I'm in the top 10%. I was also summa cum laude and magna cum laude, what have you. I had nearly a 4.0 at all times. I came into my senior year with a 3.9666. Do I need affirmative action? No. People like me don't need affirmative action. But when I went to college, I wanted to be in the marching band. I play instrument. I play 5 different instruments. I wanted to be in the marching band. So I took up the clarinet just to join the marching band. I've played piano since I was 9 years old. I know music. I picked up the clarinet, taught myself the clarinet in 2 months. Mastered it in 2 months. Okay. And I got a scholarship and joined the marching band. Now, during the trials to join the marching band, they had the first chairs. The first chair is supposed to be the person that plays the best in an orchestra, right? They had the first chairs of all of these tiny schools in Louisiana. So these are the best and brightest of these schools. And these first chairs didn't know what a scale was. They couldn't play a scale. And this is just in music. I imagine if they were talking about math, trying to get a scholarship for math, or trying to get a scholarship in biology or the sciences or engineering. These were kids, the first chairs, the best and brightest from these schools. And I said, why are these kids so terrible? And they explained to me, these schools have no money. These schools have nothing. These kids are simply graduated in these schools because they're the best at that school. Their pond is terrible. This is what's going on still in America. This was down south, and my undergraduate I did at a black college. So all of these were black kids, and these were the best and brightest of these black kids from these schools. Do we need affirmative action? Before I had that experience, I thought affirmative action was insulting. On some level, I think it is insulting. But if a school wants to take race into account, they have to have a clear picture of reality. And the reality is, in a lot of black communities across the United States, It's the same exact conditions as it was in the 40s and the 50s. The black people pay their tax money, but they get substandard quality in all of their governmental amenities from local government. That means bad hospitals, bad police, bad fire, bad doctors, bad postal service, bad schooling. Everything is bad, bad, bad. They're paying their money in taxes, and they don't have a voice because they're not really taught to stand up. Can you imagine me living in a little small town like that? I would have torn the teachers to shred. I would have torn the principals to shred. I would have had me and my mother and my parents would have got the entire school board kicked out. The mayor would have been gone. It would have been hell. But these people don't know any better. Think of this. The first chairs can't play scales. What do you think their parents' educational level is? What do you think their parents' cognitive reasoning and critical thinking is? And how empowered do you think these people are? They're not. This is today. This is not 200 years ago. This is today. There are small towns with these types of educational systems still in place today. Do we need affirmative action? Those people certainly do. If you don't have affirmative action, the very best and brightest of their little tiny cesspools won't have a chance at all. Of course we need affirmative action. I don't need affirmative action, but we make $80 to $100,000 in our assets. That's just our land. That's just the property value of the various incomes that we have from the rentals that we have. I mean, that's not counting all of our businesses. I'm including my parents into this right now. And all of my family, they're millionaires. I mean, yes, my family doesn't need affirmative action. Some of my cousins might, but my immediate family doesn't need affirmative action. But I'm not so blind as to not realize that there are black people in this planet that don't have a prayer in hell. Now, this Supreme Court case of this white woman claiming that a black person took her spot is spurious. It's racist. More often than not, 90% of the recipients of affirmative action are white women. Why? Because women got themselves declared a minority, which is a complete lie. You can't be a minority when you're 51% of the population, regardless of that highfalutin, women had it bad. No, I already know that was all a lie, all contrived. There is no wage gap. There is no whatever gap between women and men. All of that data is a complete and utter lie because I know the real data, and the real data says that women make more money than men when you take into account family and children. More money. How about that one? So this white woman bringing a Supreme Court case about affirmative action, claiming that black people took her spot, is an utter lie. The Supreme Court didn't decide on it and instead punted it back down to the lower courts for them to decide if race had been a factor in the decision-making process. And of course, what is the court? If the court is smart, they're going to say, no, it was not. White women overwhelmingly took over 50% of the entering freshman class positions. So no, race was not a factor. How about that one? That's what I would say. Anyway, that's it. So leave a comment, subscribe, share the video with all of your feminist friends. You're gonna, call me a misogynist or something like that, when in reality it's misandrist that's going on. All right, thank you. This is the Shikama Live Show. Thank you for watching.